Hey, what's going on? Thank you so much for watching. It would mean the world to us if you could just scroll down, like, hit the subscribe button for the Snaps YouTube channel. It goes a long way towards helping us out. Now, let's dive into some college football. Painful memory, kind of like you've lived through with Tennessee for the past 15 years. And Mike, I guess we'll start with Tennessee until Brooks gets in here, because Tennessee's in a weird spot. Okay. And we all do a bunch of shows with each other in this business. And on one side, I'm partnered with Jake Hester, and we did a top 12, and he was beside himself that on Snaps, we had put Tennessee in our top 12 over Mizzou, saying how ridiculous it was. And yet here on Snaps, Air Murray, be it Iamaleava, Lance Hurd, or whatever it is, the growth that you saw last year without a great quarterback and what that could translate to going forward, he feels very strong that Tennessee should be ranked 10th in the entire country. I'm not going to ask you for an opinion between the two, because I think it's all impossible for us to separate our bias, but do you legitimately think that Tennessee should be in like a preseason top 12?
Borderline. I think it's fine to put them just outside of that range, with certainly the potential to do much better than 12th. But there are a lot of, we talk Nico, we talk Lance Hurd.
Yeah.
Is he a day one left tackle? I mean, there are unknowns that we're just kind of expecting that there'll be day one. Well, there'll be day one starters, because Tennessee doesn't have anyone else at quarterback and left tackle. But how good will they be? I guess a high level of competition. But you know what's funny, T-Bob? All these people get enamored with Ole Miss and Florida State and all these teams that go all in on the NIL. Well, There's another side that people are not looking at, and it's teams like Tennessee that are also heavily involved in NIL, but it's not going out and getting free agents. It's getting guys that have played multiple years starting at your school, particularly on the line of scrimmage. Tennessee is going to have guys across the board, offense and defensive line, back for super senior seasons to help Nico. They added a touted receiver, Chris Braswell, who the staff's wild about him. They're getting Brew McCoy back, Squirrel White's back. So he's going to have weapons. They went out and got a tight end from Notre Dame. Again, I don't think it's going to be 2022 Tennessee offense, but I think it's going to be a lot closer with Nico under center than it was any time last year with Joe Milton.
Has Iamaleava set the bar too high with that bowl performance? You know what I'm saying? I mean, essentially he had 2 years of hype. Right. It felt like, or did he only sit 1 year or a year and a half? Because he early enrollee. Okay. He was a true freshman, but he was an early enrollee, or no? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So he's been on campus for a while now. I guess a full calendar year, but, he's kind of percolated in the background the entire season. People are fucking pissed at Joe Milton, but the coaches, I think rightfully so, look at the NFL, look at a guy like Jordan Love. There's something to be said for actually giving guys just a modicum of time to develop and to get better and to learn. So the coaches sit him, they season him. And then finally Tennessee fans get his wish. He has the big audition on the big stage. He gets a really good Iowa defense, regardless of what you think about the offense, a damn good Iowa defense, and he looks fantastic. Dominates, does it through the air, does it with his legs. But after that, you've kind of seen expectations shoot through the roof. Is it too much too fast based on a relatively small sample size?
Perhaps. And I've seen the comparison just to Joe Milton not last season, but the previous one. He was stellar in the Orange Bowl against Clemson, who was I believe a top 10 team. It was the best performance Joe Milton ever put together. So that's why he got so much hype. And certainly, again, I think Joe Milton gets too much blame, but he was nowhere near the level of hype that some people were giving him. So I think that's fair to say too. But it's different to me, T-Bob, because Joe Milton had failed once before at Michigan.
Yeah.
He was anointed the starting quarterback by Josh Huepel. A lot of people forget that. And Hendon Hooker only got in because of injury. So
true.
He essentially failed twice. And now we were to believe the third time was going to be the charm, which I think it was much different with Nico. And here's a key stat that I looked at going into that bowl game, T-Bob. Tennessee last year, 122nd in the country in red zone touchdown percentage going into that bowl game. They were number one in 2022 when they were number one offense in the country. Nico, first start with both offensive tackles out, 4 red zone trips, 4 touchdowns. So he took an offense that could not score in the end zone, and he got it there every time. That's how you really define a good quarterback. And again, it's just one game. It's a bowl game. You can't put too much stock into it, but how you execute in the red zone will tell you all you need to know about how good a quarterback is.
Bro, how much money is Tennessee out here spending? Or actually, explain this to us, because I tried to explain to Aaron yesterday, but I don't know the details. Iamaleava, you told me, and maybe I'm wrong here, but you told me that he essentially, he is like, does Tennessee own his NIL rights where if he was to transfer and get paid in other advertisements, that money would actually go to the collective?
Correct.
Is that, so what about right now if he gets a shoe deal? Does that money go through the collective and then to Iamaleava?
I don't know the specifics. It may go back to paying what they have essentially already committed to him, because I think I think he's making like $300,000 a month for 3-4 years is what the contract is.
Okay, so interestingly, you're saying that he has accepted almost like a flat base salary, and any money that he makes, I'm guessing if it fills up to that salary, then that goes into what the collective is paying him to kind of pay for itself. But then if it would overflow, I would hope that would go to him. But that's very interesting. So that money could actually be going back to pay for the original money that he's being paid.
Correct. That's how I understood it. And I understood it if he left, they're not going to stop him from getting NIL, but none of that money will filter to him. So what would be the point of him doing any of those things? So it was a little bit of a loophole.
Fucking do it dirty over there, dude.
I think they have since closed that loophole, but at the time, I believe that's how it was structured.
Hey, what is Shrek doing in the chat? This was my swamp. What's up, Shrek? Welcome for the first time in the show. Hey, by the way, thank you everybody. 14K subscribers. Love to see it. The road to 15K begins today. Hit the like button. Greg Hendricks says he's making $2 million a year. But Greg Hendricks says that's ridiculous. He's making more than most NFL QBs. You can say ridiculous, but Matt Rule, and honestly, it's not more than most NFL quarterbacks right now, obviously. But Matt Rule told us, right? If you want a badass quarterback, you better be willing to pay around $1 to $3 million. And go ahead.
And there's layers to this too, T-Bob, because I'm not going to pretend like I'm deep in the weeds of NIL, but I speak to a lot of people who are, and particularly in prominent positions. But when this all came about, no one knew it was the Wild West. And when it first came through, it was throw money at these high schoolers. That has since shifted significantly. It's about 80% college players, keeping your players, getting free agents, maybe 20-25% to the high school prospect. It was completely flipped prior. And this was right when NIL got passed. And Nico was essentially, as I understand it, he was looking at Oregon, he was looking at Alabama, he was looking at Georgia. So the way Tennessee looked at it, we just had an 11-win season. Haven't had an 11-win season in 20 years. We can pay this guy. It's all legal. Or he's going to go to Georgia and Alabama and whoop our ass for 3 years. So what did they do? They ponied up. And again, we could sit here and say this is outrageous. This is should never be allowed. But if Tennessee goes to the college football playoff next year, and God forbid wins a national championship at any, not even next year, but in 2 years.
Yes.
I mean, this would be the greatest investment in college football history.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. And look, if it's the thing is, to your point, people are starting to prioritize transfers and retaining players because they're less risky. I mean, they are known quantities, right? Like, this is not hard stuff to understand. Now, like any new marketplace, it's always, the obviousness of it all only comes with hindsight, right? Like at first, yes, we all thought, oh, you're going to pay all the high schoolers. But no, of course, you want to pay the guys that you've seen play on this level, that can have impacts immediately, and they're going to be less risky. It's like, I mean, that's why I always talk about with recruiting, I care about the macro, not the micro, because you never know who's going to go boom or bust. So paying Iamaleava was a big risk, but I agree with you. It was a calculated risk, and the rewards were more than enough to justify said risk. And, one game, but very early on, like if he gets Tennessee back to being playoff relevant, a 10-win team for 2-3 years in a row. Like, what more could you hope for? Like you said, like Tennessee will actually make that money up on their back end. I mean, and already, having an impact. I don't know how much of an impact in this regard, but like Andy J says, I could see George McIntyre getting similar money to Nico just because what he means to the state, his impact to recruits to the South. Nico came from Cali, which only so many Calis use it. But the point is, like, already, if you go into Iamaleava and then McIntyre ends up being in, you're hitting that quarterback pipeline combined with a Huepel, where you'll be able to convince, talent for years and years and years to continue to come to Tennessee because they're going to set you up for success.
Right. 5 years ago, there was no 5-star quarterbacks eager to go to Tennessee. Now,
what?
They
don't want to play for Jeremy Pruitt? Huh?
they got 2 in 3 years. You know what I mean? So the snowball has already started. Now it's on them to continue that momentum. But again, it has already begun clearly.